Hi, welcome to the dialogue. It's Ed with Free Circle. Gonna talk a little bit about podcasting. The growth rate of podcasting. Is it a fad or is it real? Podcasting has been here for quite a while, and I'm telling you, it's starting to grow. A lot of big boy companies are starting to put their efforts into podcast. Have you noticed the amount of podcast awards here lately? That intrigues me. Let's see. We got articles on podnews.net. It's a good place to get your podcast news. They kind of put together a good newsletter. Every day you get updates on what's going on in the podcast industry. And it seems like they're pretty unbiased. They don't really sway to put weight on a lot of... I like the way they present themselves. So anyway, podcasting has a big future. You're looking at the market. You're seeing Google really participate hard. They're trying to get their act together in podcasting. iHeartRadio, of course, they're having their iHeartRadio awards for podcasters. Spreaker Live Show, they were talking about that yesterday on their show. And there's a lot of people kind of mad about the way they're presenting the awards, how they came up with their award system. And there's a lot of people talking about the fairness of podcasting. Because, usually money influences, and those that can buy their way to the top will always do so. And a lot of concern of lately here has been just because of that. The little guy, the influence in the market, the numbers. They have been fixing the numbers in podcasts, so they're recording and registering the podcast count more in lines of what they should be. They've got a long ways to go. I was looking at my numbers today, and it blows me away. The way the growth rate comes, it's amazing. They say the download count is the way to be watching your numbers in podcast. I don't quite get that. I understand it, but yet I would think that they would want more plays, live listens, But yeah, I'm still studying the numbers on these podcasts, but it's intriguing. I'll tell you, the growth rate, it's not a fad. It's a consistent level growth. And if you look over time, the growth of podcasting, it has come in spurts. People rushing in, and then it stops, flattens out for a while, and then you'll get another little spurt. But what I'm seeing is there's a lot more people being driven to listen to podcasts, and it's raising the number of actual content creators. So you're getting a lot more variety out there. Some of it's pretty darn good, and some of it's, well, to be desired, but everybody's got to grow, and that's what I'm doing. I just started this year. I took a stab at it years ago, and I chose to go with video for YouTube. And, I kind of wish I would have just stayed at practicing and developing my skills for podcasting, because there's a big market for podcasting coming up. I kind of tend to see a growth that is not going to subside. And they were saying the Android market on the podcast side has hardly even been touched. And that's where most of your listeners are going to end up coming from. They were talking about that on the podcast yesterday, Spreaker Live Show. And I believe that's correct. You know, the market is changing. You're seeing where Apple is kind of making it hard for people to get on their directory. And Apple was, developed for both iPod, podcast, and music. So iTunes is just that. They kind of went iTunes instead of iPod. And now we're seeing this wrestling match to try to get the market of podcasters. So it's going to be interesting, the growth rate and the development of podcasting or just live audio feeds. It's unique. Podcasting is on its way up, and I think we're just starting to see a good growth rate entering the podcast market. And you're seeing advertisers, they're starting to fluctuate a little more into the market. So, yeah, podcasting is unique. There's a lot of podcasts out there. And to get your voice out, you kind of got to really work hard to push your feed out. You've got to study how to optimize and get it at a good growth rate. And that's what I've been working on with my show, because I want to do a couple other shows I've been working on in the background, but I'm not going to release those until I've developed my skills and I can get a good growth rate off of those shows. And I think I'm going to do it in seasons instead of episodes. So I'm just going to develop seasons and release a season at a time. I'm still kind of studying on that, seeing if that's what I want to do or not. But I'm getting into the podcasting and the news gathering and distribution end of things. And that's why I've started working with websites again, kind of getting my hands wet and figuring out the best ways to go with that. There's a few WordPress themes that have come out recently for podcasting. And I'm kind of leaning to that, but yet I think I don't know, there's not enough to those themes yet. You know, the RSS feed off of them, and there's, let's see, what is that called? The Blueberry one. There's a Blueberry WordPress. It's for podcasting. I'm looking at that right now and seeing if I want to implement that into my site, because I want to be able to do several shows and have independent feeds to send out. That way I can highlight other broadcasters and have their feeds pushing off of my website also. So there's a few things going on there, and WordPress seems to be a pretty popular platform, and a lot of development is going into it. And a lot of podcasters are starting to develop WordPress sites so they can push their RSS feed off of their own site and get away from the hosting companies such as Spreaker and Blueberry and Anchor and a lot of others that charge to push your host. They host and they push your RSS feed out for you. I kind of like the way I use Spreaker to push my RSS feed out because they make it easy to connect with all of the different sites, the iHeartRadio, Spotify. Once you're submitted, and it makes it easy. They take care of the big work for you, so they develop these things. And there's a lot of benefits to using hosting sites. However, if your site goes down and you're pushing that RSS feed, you don't want that disruption, because it's vital to keep that thing connected and going. And yeah, we're seeing a growth in different ways to get your podcast or your voice out, and I'm really liking what the audio side of things are doing. I think YouTube and Facebook, these social sites that are getting pretty nasty with people. You can really control yourself here when you're pushing audio. On my live shows on Spreaker, I can allow people to call in using Skype, and that just connects through an internal audio board, and it allows a telephone conference basically to be recorded and put out. And I find that feature very interesting to use. And that's what Dialogue does here on getdialogue.am. They have the unique feature where you can actually have people join in and have that live interaction that a lot of people really desire, because they can interview people. They can bring more robust, informative information to you through interviews and just conversations like a telephone conversation. So that's a thing that people have been working on for quite a while. I remember back when I was first doing this, it's a new beginning for that sort of atmosphere where you can bring people on and interview them. Craig, how's it going? As someone involved in the sphere, having started with a podcast, it's almost building on previous generations of radio shows and technology. It's a great way to listen to live shows and also go back to listen to previous recordings. Yeah, that's right. I like that. That's a very interesting aspect. You can listen to live and then you can go back and listen to it again. I do that often because they'll often say something like a link and not put it in the description. So I'll have to go back and listen to it again to get that link. And that's the unique thing about podcasting. So there's a lot of involvement and a lot of interest starting to swirl around podcasting, and the people that are in it. I think we're seeing a change in the people coming into the podcasting industry. You're getting a lot more enthusiasts. They are looking for a way to interact instead of just those self-centered, here, this is my view and I don't want any interaction. You're actually getting the people that want this interaction, that social, hey, let me call in and interact. So the interview side, I see a lot of the talk radio show atmosphere going on podcasting now, where you get good interviews going on, people that are informed and they know about the industry, and then they're talking about it. And what that does is it enables people to come in, sit down, and just relax and learn. That's the part of the podcasting, live audio. It's making people come to this audio side instead of that video. So I really enjoy more now than ever before just listening to people, because I've had enough of all that video, and it gets kind of distracting. The message is lost through all of that visual sensation, where here I can just sit back and actually listen to what the person is trying to convey out to the world, and I can get more of the message instead of visual messages. We're bombarded with that through television and the internet. And when you find a place where you can just listen instead of worrying about having your eye on the whole picture to make sure you don't miss anything, your ear can catch it a lot better. So I see a real big growth in podcasting. I see a big growth in businesses that are promoting podcasters. Google, they are now, I was going to do this with, Google started just recently where they were going to start training individuals. They were going to pick, I forget what the name of this program, but they started the program where they were going to pick independent podcasters, and they were going to come together with another company to help train podcasters to develop the field. And you're seeing a lot of big companies doing that. So I think iTunes, they're starting to get a run for their money. And when we see that in the industry, that's when we see innovation. That's when we see things starting to click. So to see a lot more people coming in. Dialogue. See, when Dialogue stepped in, it's like, oh, wow, this is totally new. And in order for me to get somebody to come on and do an interview on my Spreaker show, I have to have a plug-in, and I have to make sure all of those switches and settings are right in order to get those people on your podcast. So that's the unique thing here in Dialogue, is I have no switches. If somebody wants to come on, All you do is you unmute them and boom, they're on. Dialogue has done that all in the background for you. So it's a unique feature, and it's a positive feature that's going to draw a lot of those independent podcasters that are looking for that ease of implementation to bring guests onto their show. So we're seeing a lot of growth in different areas by a lot of different people to bring good live audio or recorded audio and through RSS feed. That's the unique thing here. So now podnews.net, if you go over there, you can sign up for a little newsletter that they put out every morning, and it goes through a lot of different unique things about podcasting and different companies that are involved in podcasting. If you want to advertise with them, you could actually put yourself out there on the advertisement and get recognized on Pod News. But I follow that every morning because this is kind of, I'm leaving the YouTube video and all of that stuff behind, and I'm really concentrating on learning how I'm using Audacity, and there's another one that I just looked at was Reaper. So I'm learning more about audio, how to get my voice more clarity when I'm recording. And that's part of my big news for later on. Hopefully I can get into that schooling where I get that professional help that I need. And I'm working on that in the background to also try to up my game, because I started this as a way to get over my anger and learn to develop skills to reunite myself with the world and bring awareness at the same time. So I started podcasting back in February. And yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, had no clue. And I figured, well, the only way to do it is jump in. So from February to June, I was still playing around with video and jumping over on to the podcast, going back and forth, figuring out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to progress in my goals, because I do have goals through all of this. So anyway, I said, well, I'll give myself a year and I'll see how it goes. And I'll see if I get any listens or any involvement, any interaction through this. And I really didn't start podcasting daily until July. So from January to June, let's see, in April, I received nothing. May, nothing. June, nothing. July, I got 148 on-demand plays and 90 downloads. And that's when I first started really getting on and saying, well, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to go ahead and try to make a go at this. And I felt that was really good. So the next month in August, my on-demand plays, they rose to 204, and my downloads was 502. And that put me at, wow, really? So I was really excited. Then the following month in September, I got 214 plays and 723 downloads. That tickled my fancy. Now this month, I'm already at 1,383 downloads, 2 live plays. I've never had live plays before. And then 273 on-demand plays. So the growth rate of the listens keep on building on podcast. And I've been doing video and Facebook and all of this for a long time, but I didn't realize what I was doing wrong. And that was bringing my anger into it. The world will make us mad. You got to calm down and you got to see the good out of it. I'm still going through bad times. That's what life's about. Big boys pick their pants up and button up their shoes and let's go. So this growth has made me see new light, new hope, and gave me optimism for my future. And I want to develop more skills to create more help in the world instead of hurt. So I am intrigued by podcasting and the audio world. I always thought, well, you have to be a radio DJ and you have to really, no, what you've got to do is just get out and start talking about what you want to talk about. And that's the uniqueness of it. Once we put away the, I'm going to be this with it and just go with it, I think it becomes a little easier. So if you're new to podcasting or you want to podcast, it is scary. And you develop yourself to get off the nerves a little at a time. Each time you hit that record button or go live button, you get a little more ease out of it. So when I started dialogue here, I was afraid to push buttons because I pushed a button and I ended up in somebody's room and I didn't mean to go there. So, I felt like I was an interruption. I was still fairly new at this podcasting when I came across dialogue. Dialogue's kind of unique. So, yeah, you develop your skill as you go on. You kind of come into your groove, your own. And I listen to other people a lot. And I'm finding if I take my... Sorry about that. If I take my phone and I found... What is this thing called? Castbox. I can download all of these feeds to Castbox, and then when they come on, I get it on my phone, and then whenever I want, I can listen to that. That is just so unique. And now, when people go live on dialogue, you can get an SMS message. I find that kind of neat because I like to know when people are on. That way, if I have the time and I'm doing nothing, or I have my phone, I can put the headphones on and listen as I do my daily thing. So podcasting gives you the uniqueness of being able to just like Craig said, download it, listen to it later. And we're finding a lot of people getting interested in bringing out what I guess they call as citizens being journalists. And I like that, as long as they kind of back their story up. I think it's a unique thing. See, Craig just went live. You got that's the unique thing here on Dialogue. If you're following somebody, boom, you get an SMS when they go live, and you can actually listen to their show. So the interaction that's happening with the podcast world and the individuals that are creating the technology to enhance the ability for the small guy to get on and get his voice out. It's like no time you've seen in history. You had to have radio equipment to push your voice out before, and now all you need is a simple smartphone. So it's come a long ways. You're going to see a lot more growth. I don't think podcasting is a fad. I think it's a real deal. I think it's just people have to get over their nerves, and a lot of people don't like to get over their nerves, so they'll start a podcast and they don't see immediate growth and they give up. Well, you'll never get immediate growth on much of anything, and you've got to put effort and time into it. So explore new boundaries, explore new people, get yourself a podcast, a dialogue, and get your word out. Anyway, I just had a free moment, wanted to come over and put down a dialogue. Anytime you feel like you can join in on my cast. I won't bite. I am a different type, but I do enjoy people interacting. So you can always hit that little button that says join the dialogue and interact with us. If you're not listening from the dialogue platform, this audio is generated out of getdialogue.am. It's a unique new platform, and I'd love to see more people come over, get involved, and join in. If you see Free Circle on, push that little green button. I'll unmute you. Let's try to stay on topic, but we can take it off topic. No big deal. Anyway, Ed, Free Circle. You have a wonderful day. Out.